Now back to the Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about Eddie because, obviously it's kind of famous now that you lent him the Destroyer to record Women and Children First.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and your relationship with Eddie.
Oh, man. Well, I got a Destroyer. This has to be about 77, probably 76, because he got one. And down in Pasedena, there's a store called the Sound Chamber. They had one for, I think it was $230. It was an Ibanez. It was not a Gibson.
Yeah.
It was an Ibanez. I got one because he got one, and it played great. And he had cut out a V in the back of his, but he drilled holes and cut it.
He turned it into the Shark guitar, and he said it sounded like shit.
He made the first Shark guitar, really. But he drilled holes and cut it out, and then he put turnbucklers in it. That tightens the garage doors, things you see them on.
Almost like on a wrestling ring.
Yeah. And it looked kind of cool, but it changed the tone of it. It changed the tone of the guitar really radical. And I had one, and he got off the road, and I crashed a motorcycle. I miscalculated a corner and didn't make it, and I just went off a cliff. And I had hurt my back, and I was in the hospital laid up in traction, and he came in and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, I'm doing another album. Can I borrow your Ibanez? I go, yeah, it's at home. I go, I'm not going to be playing for a few months here. So I go, can you loan me? That's the only one I got. Can you loan me something so when I get out, I got to play? And he gave me that Shark guitar for a while, that actual one. But he just borrowed mine, And it was funny when I went, he had already split on the road. And I took his over to his house, and his mom was there. And I go, hey, is my guitar here that Ed borrowed? She goes, go look in his room. He had a bunch. There's a few guitar cases. I go in there. I found my case. I open it up. The bridge was off it. The pickup was out. And I was like, the bridge was off, and it was backwards. And it was just, the kind of bridges you can just take off and put on. It didn't have a whammy bar.
Right.
It's like, and it was like,
it was a stop tail?
Yeah, like a Les Paul. You can take the bridge off and turn them around. But it was around backwards. I was looking at it, and I was going, how in the F did he play this? But he's probably, I don't know, who knows? Who knows what? It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me because I'd tear shit apart all the time, too. The pickup was in there. It was just in the little drawer part, and the rest of it was. So it didn't bother me. He just experimented.
You're like, what the fuck? Like, this is my guitar. He just started taking it. I lent it to you.
It didn't bother me. It didn't, if I was really worried about, the guitar, it didn't, he was trying different stuff. I didn't care,
Did you ever ask him why he turned the bridge around or why he put it up?
No, he went off on the road, and I didn't see him for another 5 or 6 months, No, I didn't really care.
It's amazing how, just something like that can change the tone of the guitar. I mean, what was he thinking in his mind,
the guitar that Ibanez is made out of some special wood called Krina. I don't know too much about it, and it just has a certain resonance to it. And it's One time when I'd moved to Pasadena when I think I was 18. In the early days, Ed came over. We were smoking some Thai weed, and the windows were down. We were trying out this amp. And I go, something's wrong with this amp. So we were checking out, and he was playing my guitar, and we cranked it, and the windows were down. He goes, hey, your neighbors are getting mad. I go, fuck the neighbors. And he was playing a bunch. He was just, noodling, right? That's just blowing some licks, whatever. And when he was noodling, I was going, man, I hope the neighbors think that's me playing.
Of course. They're like, damn, Chris got pretty good overnight. What happened there?
That's funny. I was hoping they were thinking it was me playing.
Do you remember what licks he was playing? Like, was it like any tapping stuff?
He was just noodling, just noodling stuff. I couldn't tell you, I wish I had a tape recorder then,
Yeah.
But he had a heart of gold. There's people that he didn't like you don't want to be around him when he don't like you, But he had a heart of gold, and he was he was an inspiration to me. About how to treat other people when they're around you,
Yeah.
And even though I don't play like him, I tried kind of when I was younger, but I can't. Might as well just play what you play,
Yeah. It's nice to hear you talk about Ed in that way because everybody seems to have the same sentiment about Edward. He was a really nice guy.
Totally cool, man. Totally cool. You know, and it'd take a lot to piss him off. But if it's, you know, he's just, it's sad that he's gone. You know, I'll never talk to him again. But it's, you know, you don't live forever. Well, in 100 years, yes, in 100 years, this planet will still be here, turning right in the same spot. We'll all be gone.
Right. Yeah.
Just real quick, when you're hearing him noodling in the backyard and stuff, do you just sort of say, maybe I'll just quit and become a drummer because I can't compete? Is it an inspirational or is it somewhat depressing?
I never looked at it as competing.
Okay.
I never once would ever look at in the early days with W.A.S.P, we looked at other bands to compete against them. It's been the crowd size and stuff, but as guitar players and stuff, my friends, no, I could, you know, I'm the way Ed played. I'm happy that I knew him and grew up watching him go from nothing to the start of me was. It makes me happy that I saw somebody do that, go from where they were to how big. And I never looked at it as a competition thing. I just, you know, he had a certain touch. He had a certain touch that was just outrageous. He took, you know, he was an Eric Clapton freak. He took and loved Billy Gibbons. He took the best of whatever guitar players and learned to do what he did the way he did. And he just, you know, took it to another level, man. Yeah. He made the rock guitar what it is.
Since you were there in the scene, in the moment, in real time, seeing Edward go from Van Halen 1 all the way through the 80s, man, how quick was it for all the other guitarists in the area to start wanting to play like him, get into amps, trying to do their guitars?
That was all after 82. Right. 82, you know, I mean, when W.A.S.P started, there was a few good bands that was cool. And before that, the bands in L.A., there was a band called Stormer at the time in the 70s that had a killer guitar player named Jimmy Bates. Monster player, man. He's like, he played a right-handed guitar left-handed, so the strings are upside down. Wow. And the dude had the most wicked bends I've ever seen in my life, this guy. Named Jimmy Bates. I don't know whatever happened to him. He's one of my favorite players. It took till about the third Van Halen album, and every other damn guitar player came into town to do a glam band or whatever, a hair band or whatever. It just got so flooded in 85 and 86. It was just unbelievable. Everybody and their sister thought they were going to make it famous. Just play a few chords and look good, you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Maybe, then it's just over flooded the market, But, Ed, if it wasn't for him, I would not, guaranteed not have the sound that I have today and not know. Oh, yeah. It's because there's a lot of tricks on Marshalls that I learned from him, just being around him. Plus, I worked at Sir Vegas Speaker Company when I was 19 for a while, and I learned a lot about sound. That's a speaker company, so I worked in quality controls, and I learned a lot about speakers and stuff there. But, if it wasn't for Ed, I wouldn't. There's a lot of tricks about using an amp that I wouldn't have learned, Do you
remember some of those tricks that he taught you?
He didn't really taught me. It was just being around him, seeing what he did, setting the gear up the way he did. One thing I learned from him that nobody else knew is instead of like the old Marshall amps did not have a preamp on them. They just had one volume, and you had to crank the thing to make it sound good. Sometimes it's too loud. But he figured out, do you know what a variac is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You can't take a dimmer switch off the wall. It has to be a variac because the amps stay the same, but the voltage drops. He figured it out to take one of those and plug your amp in between the amp and the wall and turn it down, and the volume goes down, but it still sounds cranked.
Yeah.
He figured that out. And I learned that in the 70s, which not too many people knew about, and it made it so you can play clubs with the amp cranked, but it's down lower, still have a good sound.
Yeah,
it was before Marshalls. They actually had preamps.
Yeah, it almost the variac literally became your volume now because you could crank it all the way up to 10, and
Well, it's just like a light bulb's a tube, and it turns down the tube. The voltage going to the tube, so it's down lower. Yeah, you can turn it down way far too, and it still sounds good. It's just hard.
It's also how you got that sort of like really saturated kind of sound as well.
Well, that's how he did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a nice warm. It's still a nice warm tube sound, and plates on the tubes are still iron versus like the digital stuff today. It's all silicone. That's where you get the crappy distortion. It's weird. But yeah, I learned a lot about, where to put the amps on stage and stuff like that, and it was just to see the guy go from where they were to what they are. I'm glad that I was there. Did the relationship go the other way? Were there things that you were doing that Ed went, oh, I need to do that too? No, because once he got his record deal, he was working so dang hard, touring and playing. It's I didn't get to see him that much. I saw him a lot more before he had the record deal. Yeah,
gotcha.
Because I'd go down with him to the Starwood and help set up their gear. In the daytime, they'd always play Thursday nights on KNAC. It's a Starwood. I forget what they called it. KNAC something night on Thursday night. And the drummer in my band. This is when I was 18. The drummer in my band was their sound man. This guy named Tom Broderick. So I'd go down and see him play every night or every Thursday at the end of the month. I think it's Thursday night. It wasn't Friday.
Yeah. Did he keep any of any board tapes from back in the day of those shows that he did sound for?
It's been so long. I've been married twice, and when you're divorced, you lose everything. That you had. Who knows where it goes and what. So I used to have a bunch of board tapes. I couldn't even. I've lost all my stuff 3 or 4 times. So it's all in the dust at the end of time. And who'd have tapes nowadays? You know anybody with a cassette tape?
No.
Hey, they're coming back. A lot of people are doing them now.
Yeah, I know, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let me just go about 5 years.
The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.